Just look at the parts that Mother Nature gave me. Oh!
She jiggled a pair of that must have been at least double J's.
Look at these big ones. Ra-ta-ta-ta-ta.
Hello friends, Trace Amounts of Science. Today we're getting back into another Cringy Val saga with Married Mary. Cringy Val also wrote the Funky P saga. I don't know how gross this one's gonna get, but I'm interested to see, and yes, a lot of viewers have requested it, so we'll get into it today. I'm a little bit sick, but don't let that bother you none too much. We're still here, showing up, showing out. We're gonna make it do what it do. Thanks for joining me. Married Mary, the bombshell legbeard. Pretty sure that's an oxymoron. Hell yeah, my little tester chapter made it to YouTube. Thank you, ReddX. You made it hilarious. Yeah, we do the best we can to keep it spicy. That's the Whiskey Wang Bang, I think, that we're talking about. So yeah, if you want to hear a story about a whiskey dick neckbeard, I'll link that on the end card for you. How about it? Chronicling the more bizarre events from my past has become a passionate pursuit for me. It feels fantastic to let these stories fly from my mind to the keys and then to the internet to be shared read exclusively with the cringe connoisseurs of ReddX Industries. Yes, a hungry bunch they are. Thank goodness for the Red exclusives. I hope that I can live up to your standards. Well, I think everybody would agree with me when I say that you definitely go above and beyond. Funky P rivals Chris Trucker with its grossness, and that's an accomplishment. So I've crawled back under my comfy throwaway account like a little weenie so that I can give the backstory of how I met and ultimately wound up in the most meretricious romantic relationship with Funky P Beard, known throughout most of this prequel as Whiskers. I'm afraid to reveal my identity because, yeah, these beards are bonkers. My life is stable, fulfilling, and beard-free nowadays, and I'm trying to keep it that way. Yeah, I don't know if joining the ReddX community is the best way to do that, but we're glad to have you here, that's for sure. Lots of beards in reform, beard lights. They're not the dangerous or gross sort of beards, for the most part anyways. So much of this story does involve Whiskers, as the object of an obsessive legbeard's intemperate desire. So let's just call this what it is, Legbeard Cringe. Welcome to the raunchy underground of the Wellsprings theater community. You might regret it. I don't regret it. I gobble these stories up. This was written 8 months ago, but yeah, now it's time to crack this nut open. Trigger warnings for the entire story: profanity, poop, disgusting adult content, female perpetrated adult misconduct, and the biggest trigger warning of all, Cats, the musical. Memory, all alone in the moonlight. Yeah, I think I watched that one time. If you're still here after that trigger warning, well, please allow me to introduce you to this mostly new cast of characters. I'm Val, the OP, female, late 20s. At the time of this story, I'm a perky emo burlesque dancer working on my master's degree in sex therapy/psychology, reveling in the theater scene, and coping with a confusing situationship in some arguably unhealthy ways. I'm not browbeaten and weary from a year of tolerating neckbeardery yet, so I think that I'm just a little bit more fun in this story. Okay, good. That's fine. I'm feeling sick, so you be the fun one this time, okay? My best friend is Lucy, also female, also late 20s, easily the funniest person I've ever met. And I don't think my writing is ever going to be able to do her comedic skills justice. She's a drama teacher, a photographer, and a semi-professional comic in a small improv troupe, along with a woman that she intensely dislikes but tolerates out of professional obligations. Yes, a professional improv troupe. We must take this deadly serious. That just seems funny to me. I might not believe it if I hadn't seen it for myself. When I was living in Burbank, near Hollywood, I tried to join the Upright Citizens Brigade, UCB, which is like a improv troupe of some note. It was basically just to improve my stand-up comedy. But yeah, everybody involved with it was so far up their own ass. I guess it's all spawned from that, like, California self-centeredness. Anyway, I didn't have a good time. I don't like improv troupes. Except for the whitest kids you know. Then again, maybe they take themselves a bit too seriously too. Never meet your heroes. That's what they say. Anyway, there's also Mary, who is the legbeard, of course. Female, early 30s. Imagine Trisha Paytas and add a few pounds, as well as a few extra drops of insanity. To be clear, I'm talking about Trisha Paytas at peak outrageousness. I understand that Trish has recently reined in the absurdity. Oh, that's good. I don't know anything about her. Seems like a maniac in passing. Mary is a married comedian, although she isn't reliably funny on stage, but she's often unintentionally hilarious. She fancies herself a curvy queen, but most others generally describe her as lumpy. Despite being lumpy, Mary is undeniably attractive in her own way, and she's wildly attractive to guys who like a little something extra to grab onto. Yeah, that ain't me. But every time I point out that ain't me, Jeebus is gonna pop up in the comments and be like, nah, more pushing for the cushion. I'm like, you ain't gonna talk me around, bro. Anyway, she has a very pretty face, long blonde hair, and even her voice is melodious and pleasing when she isn't whining, but she is usually whining. She speaks in a wet, breathy voice that strikes me as a decent attempt to imitate Marilyn Monroe's babyish bombshell voice. But if this makes it to YouTube, I absolutely do not care which legbeard voice ReddX chooses. I just want the listeners to imagine a Marilyn wannabe who pulls it off occasionally, but usually just ends up making an unseemly spectacle of herself. Happy birthday, Mr. President. Am I close? Who cares? Whiskey Whiskers, male, early 30s. He's the unfortunate object of Mary's obsession for a little while. Extremely tall, lanky, usually well-spoken, usually well-dressed, and far too pusillanimous to tell clingy-ass Mary to leave him alone. We got so many like $10 words in here. Pusillanimous means timid. I had to look it up. He often complains about her obsessive, possessive nature to others, but he usually gives in to her demands for intimate liaisons because, booba. Oh, and he has a big black, bushy, repugnant, and sometimes malodorous beard. That's not what I heard. I heard that thing was nasty all the time. But okay. We also got Mo the Bro Lester. Jesus. Male, old. I have no idea how old this guy actually is, but he's very obviously too old to be hanging out with a bunch of theater nerds in their 20s and 30s every single week. And he's definitely too old to be relentlessly hitting on the youngest of females every chance he gets. He's a crusty old creep who keeps getting away with being rude and revolting, and yeah, it's time for him to suffer some consequences. I mean, I'm just spitballing here, but couldn't we as a theater troupe decide that we don't want him here anymore? Sit him down for a hard conversation in order to protect our younger members? I'll fucking tell him off if everybody's too scared to do it. That's fine. We've also got George Gay, male, late 20s. He is a handsome, hilarious, and flamboyantly fierce member of the improv troupe. My former partner in crime from Cats, and also very active in the musical theater scene. Gosh, you don't say. Often takes on the role of the Mary sitter and can occasionally get her to behave, if only temporarily. There's also George Strait. Oh my god, dude, I'm such a fan of George Strait. All my exes live in Texas.
And that's why I hang my hat in Tennessee.
For real, George Strait is so good. I mean, no Brooks and Dunn, but he's doing his best. OP says, George Strait is the classic all-American male. Good-looking, well-mannered, and genuinely gentlemanly. But despite his chill mannerisms off stage, he's both funny and professional as a comic. Oh, professionalism. I think that's the part I was missing with my stand-up. Kind of the de facto leader of the improv troupe, and he was formerly the object of Mary's obsession. Well, I appreciate your interest, ma'am, but I'm gonna have to politely decline. There's a bit too much butter on them biscuits for my liking. Tink is a young male member of the burlesque troupe, fresh off the farm and fresh out the closet. He's sensitive and shy, but he has dancing abilities for days. You are the dancing queen, young and sweet, only 17. There's also Chuck the Cuck, who is the poor sucker who married Mary. Oops. Is he aware of all the stuff that goes on and just looks the other way? Maybe he does enjoy it. You know what? I don't want to think about that too much. OP says, you'll also get to know Darcy, Madam Moxie, Tia G, Georgina, Megan, Scumbanger, Sugar Pop, Silver Fox, Dennis. Yes, he is named after the Golden God. And finally, we'll witness the gradual unfurling of Funky P-Beard. Oh, he's not there quite yet. This is like backstory before the backstory. I'm liking this a lot. We're going way back in the future, motherfucker.
Surprise, motherfucker.
If I decide to dive deeper into the backstory, then you'll meet the fart-knocking Jar Jar Binks of the BDSM community, fart-knocking Jar Jar's dominatrix ex-fiancé, Professor McDreamy, and a shockingly malodorous John Cameron Mitchell wannabe. I don't know who John Cameron Mitchell is, so I looked it up, and it turns out he's a playwright. For some reason, I thought of Kirk Cameron from Growing Pains, you know? Now he's gone, like, heavy religious and stuff. But that's a different guy, okay? So we're into chapter 1 now. First contact. Oh, it's not gonna go well. I suppose this long, sordid chapter of my life began on a Thursday evening. My burlesque troupe was opening for Lucy's improv troupe. It was mid-October, so the show had a sexy/spooky theme. This was my favorite time of the year. I was surrounded by my favorite people, and all of us were looking forward to putting on a delightful show for the slightly larger-than-usual audience that had gathered at the Imp. The Imp, I guess, being the club, as OP expounds. It was formerly known as Shout Out. That's a stupid name. The Imp is way better. The club I did stand up at for the longest was Flappers in Burbank. Few times at the Comedy Store, but yeah, a lot of time at Flappers, which I think is a pretty cool name too. Especially we're talking about burlesque shows and whatnot. Anyway, management changed the name of the charmingly ramshackle improv theater to The Imp in honor of Tyrion from Game of Thrones, back when that show was still widely adored. The Imp played host to a number of improv troupes, but will only spend time with the small troupe that included Lucy, Mary, and the Georges. I was securing a set of planchette-shaped pasties over my nips and chatting to one of the fellow dancers when we noticed a lumpy blonde woman striding over to insert herself into the conversation. I had seen her on stage before, when I had been in the audience, and she always seemed to play the bimbo character, and it remained unclear to me whether her obliviousness to her not-so-svelte body was meant to be funny, or if she truly believed that she was a serious contender for the cover of Playboy. Oh, trust me, OP. That is nothing but ego. Any acknowledgement of reality might shatter her fragile worldview. We must tread very carefully. Mary says,
I want to be a burlesque dancer. Can I play?
OP, well, we've already learned the choreography for tonight's show, but I can introduce you to our burlesque mother, and you could schedule an audition if you want. I'm OP, by the way. Mary.
I'm Mary, but you probably know who I am.
She tossed her hair.
You're Lucy's friend, right?
OP. Uh-huh. Nice to officially meet you. Mary.
Oh, and you were in Cats with Boy Georgie. I didn't recognize you without your kitty costume.
Yep, small town, I guess. Bunch of theater kids doing theater kid things. Part of me wants to cringe, but the other part says don't start the cringing too early. This is a moderately normal exchange still. OP says, yeah, George was my other half during that show. Mary says,
so, I can dance with you guys, right? I want to get a feel for burlesque before I commit. I sometimes have commitment issues.
She laughed far too loudly at her own joke. A joke that didn't make sense to me. Yet. OP says, well, you'll still have to audition before you can perform. We're only doing a couple of numbers tonight, but maybe you could watch and see if it seems fun. Mary, whining more fervently.
I shouldn't have to audition for some burlesque, Mother. Just look at the parts that Mother Nature gave me. Oh.
She jiggled a pair of boobs that must have been at least double J's.
Look at these big ones. Ra-ta-ta-ta-ta.
And then she narrowed her eyes and looked down at my definitely not double J boobs. I mean, boobs on a fat girl. I have a hard time being shocked about that, but yeah, that's not all it takes for this job. I assume there's some dance numbers that you have to know, but she's just gonna get up on stage and roll around like a ball of lard. You don't know what do. Please stop harass. Thank you. Mary says,
I mean, they let you do it. They should unquestionably let me do it.
I narrowed my own eyes in response to her flimsy insult, but I decided to keep the conversation civilized. Anyone can do burlesque, as long as they learn the choreography, I told her as I laced up my witchy corset. It's more about the performance art than having any specific body type. We've even got male dancers. Darcy, my fellow witchy dancer, chimed in. Yeah, the guys usually get a better reaction than the girls do. Mary licked her lips.
I'd love to dance with a burlesque boy.
Darcy and I laughed. Yeah, they're all gay. I told Mary. But I bet they would be open to learning a new routine. Darcy added, just don't expect any romance. Is she gonna do that thing that the dudes do and swear that she could flip their orientation with the usage of her magic meat pocket? Maybe. It's a theory yet. That was when Mary tore off her blouse. Oh, Jesus. She undid her front closure bra and began to shimmy around the crowded dressing room.
All boys love big boobs, even gay boys, she screeched. Can I get an amen up in here?
Up in here. So I guess it's not even the clown pocket. It's her oversized fat girl honker-donkers. I'll be honest with you, I'm not impressed. So yeah, amen, totally. Tink, one of the young male dancers from our troupe, squeaked out the most coerced and uncomfortable amen I've ever heard. Tink was relatively new to Wellsprings, having moved to Southern California from a small town in Montana. He hadn't come out as gay until after he finished college and moved to a more liberal city, and he was still in the process of coming out of his shell. But he was a total sweetheart and an impeccable dancer. I'll tell you how I met him a bit later on. As Mary continued to shimmy, annoying Lucy, offending a few of the female dancers, and utterly shocking Tink, my partner in crime from Cats spoke up. Sometimes known as Boy George, sometimes as George Gay, but he was the only person who could effectively wrangle Mary. George Gay, girl, put your ginormous tits away and sit down. Save that hypersexual aplomb for the stage. Yeah, he can wrangle her by playing into her ego. I don't know if that's the correct way to do it, Georgie. But okay, it gets results in this moment, and I guess that's what counts in this moment. Mary indignantly refastened her bra.
I know you love me, Boy Georgie, she cooed. If I were a man, I'd have my dung in your mouth right now.
Seems presumptuous, but okay. Does Georgie seem like the type that pursues overweight men? George Gay then says sarcastically, of course you would, gorgeous. Shall we grab some shots and watch the dancers before we all get up there and pretend to be funny? Mary,
I don't see why I have to put my magnificent tits away when all these little pixies are standing around with their tiny ones hanging out.
God, what would it be like to go through your whole life where, like, boobs are your only defining trait? This is the only thing that validates you? That's terrifying to me. OP says, I'm pretty sure that was directed at me, because most of the other burlesque gals were busty. Then again, even the bustiest gal in our troupe had a pair of Plutos compared to Mary's Jupiters. George Gay, you're the only one with her titties hanging out, baby girl. The burlesque dancers are just getting into costume, so let's leave them to it. Drinks! Shake a leg! Mary buttoned up and followed George Gay to the bar, lumbering her hips to and fro in a most pitiful imitation of George Gay's flawless swish. I mean, it's a rhinoceros trying to imitate a peacock. With Mary's garish presence temporarily removed from the dressing room, the normal pre-show prep continued in peace. But that peace would be short-lived. I leaned closer to a mirror to finish doing my makeup, and I noticed the reflection of Mo standing next to the dressing room door, trying and failing to casually blend in. He was wearing a Star Trek, the original series t-shirt, skinny jeans, a checkered bucket hat, fingerless gloves, and poorly applied guy liner, which really made him look like Beetlejuice. What a terrifying description. The bucket hat and the eyeliner just it kills me. You're too old for this shit, man. It's time to put childish things away, okay? Mo was an icky boomer incel and a regular audience member at the Imp who seemed to honestly believe that he was passing himself off as the super chill Wiccan bro in his 30s, but in reality he was just a dumpy old dude who gave everyone the creeps. Mo probably should have considered trying to grow a beard if he was so hell-bent on passing off as youthful. He had deep, unsightly marionette lines, which created a facial expression that made him appear perpetually grumpy or even disgruntled, almost as if he were constantly smelling a fart. We must be really desperate for customers if we're letting Mo hang out in here. In the dressing room? Isn't he go to wait for the performance to start, please. Even though Mo wasn't terribly overweight, aside from a very obvious beer belly, he had a long, wobbly extra chin that sported a bit of sparse fuzz, despite his actual face being clean-shaven. It almost looked like he had a lone testicle drooping beneath his primary chin.
How did these get up here?
And I wish I could say something positive about Mo. I always try to find the pretty in people, but this guy was just butt-ass fugly. The type of fugly old creep that you'd expect to get mugged by a toot. There was also something extremely off-putting about his voice. Despite despising cigarettes, Mo had the most gravelly voice that I've ever heard, and he was a close talker. No halitosis, fortunately, just beer breath. It was still creepy, nonetheless, to converse with him.
I'll tell you why I don't like cigarettes. They got me hooked on them back in Nam. I came back 20 years later, had to kick it. Hardest thing I ever done.
Jeez, Mo, you were in Nam? How old are you, actually?
Oh, did I say Nam? I meant Desert Storm.
I had been Mo-initiated, just as almost every young female imp regular had been. I hate that as a verb, thank you. The first time I went to one of their shows, Mo was immediately trading jokes with me and telling me about all of his hobbies: painting, raising iguanas, reading tarot cards, and reading/watching classic sci-fi. Despite the grating, gravelly voice and the creepy close talking, Mo seemed alright at first. Yeah, I guess, little self-centric. I sense a bit of ego there. But you just wait, 'cause soon the mask really comes off. Then one night, out of nowhere, Mo confessed his love for me. I soon found out that he had confessed his love to the vast majority of the young female regulars and volunteers and guest performers, Even if I had been interested, I wasn't. The fact that he was running around dropping L-bombs on every female who looked young enough to be his spawn would have taken away any hypothetical Twitterpation. I tried to explain that I didn't think of him that way, and he got all butt blasted and whined that he couldn't believe he was getting rejected by an older woman. I was 27. Mo was at least 50-something. Honestly, though, who does he think he's fooling? Maybe it was a joke, but yeah, it's not really working. Just please leave. How did Mo even get backstage? What the fuck? Basically, in his mind, he was lowering his standards by hitting on an old lady like me. I managed to use that in my favor and encouraged Mo to adhere to his standards and pursue the ladies that he genuinely desired. Well, that was a mistake, but it got him off my back, and we were eventually able to return to being cordial. I kept my guard up around him, however, as you should. I'm still mystified as to why he's even tolerated, but you know, we all choose to live our lives in all different types of ways. Returning to the present predicament, Darcy also noticed Mo's failed attempt at nonchalantly hanging out in the dressing room. She turned to me and fumed. What the hell is he doing in here? Okay, a tiny bit more backstory. The previous week, Mo had been skulking around the theater during the burlesque rehearsal because, yeah, we knew why, and he overheard Darcy remarking that she loved Jell-O shots. So, what did he do? He ran to the dive bar next door, bought dozens of Jell-O shots, smuggled them out, and returned to the imp. Desperation knows no bounds, I guess. When Mo passed out the shots after rehearsal, Darcy high-fived him and called him the MVP. But she didn't blow him. Darcy was 23 and light years out of his league, for the record. A high five and a toast were insufficient to appease Mo's entitlement to half his age hoo-ha, and so he raged at Darcy, accusing her of failing to comprehend the basic human concept of gratitude. He went on and on about how much trouble he'd gone through in order to procure her favorite alcoholic treat, called her a whore, and stormed out in a fit of man-baby rage. Like, what the actual fuck did you think was gonna happen here, Mo? Can I hear you say it out loud just so you can hear how ridiculous it sounds? I looked across the dressing room and locked eyes with Lucy. We'd known each other since we were 12, so she could pretty much read my mind. I widened my eyes and tilted my head in Mo's direction. She instantly understood and ran to get the manly man of the improv troupe, George Strait, so named to easily differentiate him from the more flamboyant George. And also because he's a little bit country and a little bit rock and roll. George Strait had been politely hanging back so as not to make the girls uncomfortable with his hetero presence. We didn't give a rat's ass about changing in front of the gay guys. George Strait says, "Damn it, Mo, get out of here. We got ladies changing right now." Mo, "I know. Hi, ladies."
Get out of here, you nosy little pervert, or I'm gonna slap you silly.
How are we not, like, kicking the shit out of him at this point? Like I said, must be desperate for customers. Any decent establishment, this guy's getting put out on his ass. We all muttered our half-hearted greetings to Mo. There was no point in acting overly modest, since we were all about dancing around in pasties. Even so, there's a difference between deliberately dancing half-naked on stage and getting surreptitiously creeped on by a pervy audience member. Oh no, you don't have to explain the line to me, OP. The crazy part to me is that nobody's punched him in the mouth yet. George Strait grabbed Mo by the shoulder and steered him out of the dressing room. "Have some respect, bro," he said, mocking Mo's laughable attempts to speak like a younger guy. "Go grab a drink on the house at the bar. You'll get to watch the ladies dance soon enough." A drink on the house? You're rewarding his bad behavior. Come on, everybody. We gotta do better than this. Madam Moxie, our burlesque mother and choreographer, popped in to call 5 minutes to places, and everyone responded, "Thank you, 5. We were ready. Darcy and I were marking our part of the routine. Tink was stretching in preparation for his glorious risque ballet bit, and I could hear the owner of the theater warming up the audience. How do you warm them up for a burlesque show? Hand jobs?" Terrible joke. That was when Mary burst back into the dressing room. She collapsed dramatically in front of the mirror and cried,
Beauty is a curse! I had to come back here to hide from Mo! He tried to grope me at the bar!
George Gay had entered behind her, shaking his head. "He didn't try to grope you, Mare. Let's not slander the geezer for something that he didn't do. Yeah, there's plenty of other degenerate things he did actually do that we could persecute him for. Let's not muddy the waters here." And OP says, yes, I too am siding with George on this one. Mo said some weird stuff. He lecherously stared at young women, and he was constantly trying to manipulate young women into dating him, or worse. But I'd never seen him try to actually play grab ass with anyone. That's right. We like our lecherous perverts with a bit of dignity around here. Aside from that, Mo had a no fatties rule. Now, Mary wasn't what I personally would consider fat. She was certainly a far cry from svelte, and she probably would have looked less lumpy if she had worn clothes that fit properly instead of squeezing herself into skimpy clothes from Forever 21, but I would wager that she definitely exceeded Mo's weight limit. You know, like I said, not just any sicko or weirdo can walk into the Backstage dressing room. A certain level of class. Oh, don't get me wrong, he'll chase around a 19-year-old, but not if she's over 150. And even if Mary had been a bit slimmer, she was over 30, which was ancient in Mo's muddled mind. This was a blissful age before terms like roasty existed. Hell, the Supreme Gentleman was still out there wasting oxygen. Hey, we read his whole manifesto. You should check that one out too. But Mo would have probably described any woman with a fully formed frontal cortex as a roasty, had this vile term been part of the vernacular. Never mind the potentially pendulous plums in his pants. What can I say? Just happens when you get old, you know? Part of living. Like 2 hard-boiled eggs in a tube sock just knocking around down there. I can't help it. Roasty is a rather vile term, though. I think the Japanese have it right. They call it Christmas cake, because nobody wants to eat it after the 25th. But it sounds nicer, is my point. As Mary feigned indignation over Mo's alleged grope, Madam Moxie called places, and the show kicked off. We did 2 routines, and then turned the show over to the improvers. The first audience suggestion was, ghost stories around the campfire, and Mary shoehorned in a sex scene with a lecherous spirit. You really are just doing the most. Can we kick her out too? It's not even funny. It's just awkward. The next suggestion was haunted house, and Mary wound up humping an imaginary chainsaw, loudly making obnoxious vibrator jokes, followed by dubiously amusing period jokes. Oh, because the chainsaw cut her and now she's bleeding. Clever. This joke's got layers, and it's so edgy. And things wrapped up with an insistent request for Bottom Man, which was unapologetically stolen from the League. Once again, Mary managed to make an already sexual scenario overly so, and mimed playing with her equipmunk. Now that I think of it, I'm pretty sure she wasn't even miming that. You see? You see, this shit right here is why we don't have any customers. We need to implement some standards for ourselves as well as the customers, you know? I came out here with my family to enjoy a nice night of girls dancing around in pasties. I'm never coming back here again. Lucy had always complained to me that Mary could never seem to grasp one of the essential rules of improv. You always say yes and instead of yes but in order to move the scene forward. I finally understood what she meant. For those unfamiliar with improv, that basically means that Mary hijacked every scene and made it intimately focused, even when it was out of place within the context of the scene that the rest of the genuinely funny improvers had established. Yes, but I'm horny, was her response to everything. I think you just have to say yes and. Yes and now she's humping a chainsaw. Hope you enjoyed the show. Good night, everybody. For the grand finale, the burlesque troupe came back on stage and performed a very simple routine, and the improv troupe joined. They were meant to purposefully dance badly, and it was pretty funny in the beginning. George Gay stole the show when he stripped down to his skivvies and performed a graceless, offbeat, hilariously bad dance involving many ill-timed pelvic thrusts, even though George was actually an excellent dancer. But Mary wasn't about to be upstaged by her precious boy Georgie. She pushed him off the stage. Fortunately, George knew how to fall. She took center stage and stripped down to nothing but hot pink butt floss. Oh, God. You know what? Let's go, guys. I gotta get out of here. Avoid the crowds and whatnot. Just any place I can be other than here would be great. OP says, mind you, burlesque dancers do not show bare breasts, so I can only assume that she stripped in an attempt to overshadow us. And even though the improv shows often included profanity and raunchy situations, Mary was undeniably out of line. You see what I'm saying about standards, right? They changed the name so you think it's a different place, but it's the same fucking place. It's all the same people in there doing the same weird shit, and I can't pay for a ticket. I'm gonna do my best to shut this place down on principle. The audience reacted with a mixture of shock, laughter, and horny whistles, and Mary soon lumbered off stage and began giving a lumpily lascivious lap dance to a very tall man in the front row with the biggest, bushiest, nastiest beard I had ever seen in my life. Damn, OP out here picking up Mary's seconds. It's nasty. Management killed the music and turned on the house lights. A theater volunteer rushed over to Mary and covered her with a blanket, presumably in an attempt to avoid a raid from the Vice Squad. So yeah, the show ended rather abruptly. We all took some irresolute bows, except for Mary, who continued to bump and grind in the lap of the guy with the nasty beard. But the audience was cheering and applauding, so I think we put on a fun show, despite Mary's impropriety. Well, good. I'm glad to hear it, but mark my words, Mary will be the death of live comedy. After the show, it was customary to adjourn to the dive bar next door. I changed into my street clothes, stashed my dance bag in my car, and strolled to Filthy McNasty's with Lucy. Lucy, Mary was in rare form tonight. OP, I've heard the horror stories from you and George, but seeing her backstage behavior for myself, holy shit. How do you guys put up with her? Lucy, she's so freaking annoying. George Gay is the only one who can handle her. OP, I guess she's just out there being thirsty and doing her thing. Lucy, she's married. OP, oh, is it an open relationship? Lucy, I don't really know. Sometimes she claims they're open, sometimes she claims that they're separated, but the one time her husband came to the show, she actually acted like a normal human being for the entire night. So my best guess is that he has no idea. OP, damn, poor guy. What was he like? Lucy, Chuck? I mean, him and Mary don't quite match, if that makes any sense. Decent looking, but not super hot or anything. Nebbish, kind of quiet. I didn't get to know him much because Mary kept talking for him. Yeah, you see this type of relationship depicted in Looney Tunes cartoons. The mousy, browbeaten husband and the oafish, overly loud wife. It's not a good look. As we approach the door, we could hear Darcy yell, "Fuck off!" If this story took place in the present day, I would say that she was doing a stellar impression of Logan Roy, and then Mo stumbled out of the bar, dripping with booze, clearly about to enter another state of man-baby rage, and I cautiously put a hand on his shoulder. OP, what's up, Mo? Mo, almost in tears. Well, Darcy and I had something of a lover's quarrel when she didn't thank me for getting you guys Jello shots last week. I tried to extend an olive branch and offered to read her tarot for free, but yet another display of ingratitude. He pathetically shook his head as he wiped the defensive drink off his face. Lucy, with a paucity of pity, she did thank you. She just didn't express the exact kind of gratitude that you were looking for. Mo, you weren't there. You didn't see how rude she was. OP, I was there. She wasn't rude, dude. For what it's worth, thank you again for getting us Jello shots. Such a weird play to make, but yeah, Mo literally has nothing else. The eyeliner and the bucket hat didn't work. Oh no, bring in the Jello shots. Mo says, tough love. No disrespect, OP, but it felt rude to me. I hope you can have the decency to acknowledge my feelings. Fuck your feelings. Your feelings are the whole problem. OP says, I do acknowledge that you feel hurt, Mo, but in the spirit of tough love, you've got to acknowledge that she felt offended by your comments. I think you should give her some space and maybe, don't call her a slut again. Handy hints for life. Mo says, nah, I'm just gonna go home and do some spell work. That girl's nothing but an ingrate who doesn't even know how to politely accept a peace offering. I'm done being Mr. Nice Guy. What was nice about the thing that you did? It was done with expectation in mind. You're not a nice guy. You're a pervert. But OP doesn't say any of that. Instead, I nodded and gave him a little pat on the shoulder, secretly glad he was leaving. It had been a long night, and I lacked the energy to make any further attempts to reason with him. Enjoy the spells, and hey, thanks for coming to the show. Drive carefully. Lucy grabbed my hand and pulled me into the bar, muttering, good riddance, Beetlejuice. She couldn't stand Mo, which is saying a lot, since Lucy loved older men. But she loved older men who were emotionally mature, confident, and had some silver fox swagger. Mo had none of these qualities. Yeah, he spent decades not knowing who the fuck he is, and there's nothing more sad than that. But instead of trying to improve himself or find something outside of this persona that he's cultivated, he just keeps doubling down. And how bad can I feel for somebody who keeps punching themselves in the face? None bad is the answer. Lucy and I started singing Added Up by the Violent Femmes, heartlessly mocking Mo's frustration over being unable to get just one. Darcy chimed in and we all belted day after day before we eventually trailed off into a fit of laughter at poor, dejected, rejected Mo. I had tried to feel sorry for him. I had tried to be his friend, but this guy was an irredeemable creepazoid. Were we mean girls? Who cares? A little bit of bullying, it's healthy. Maybe he'll fix himself if you bully him a little bit more. Lucy says, did you actually throw a drink in his face? And Darcy said, hell yeah, I did. He tried to whip out his tarot cards to give me a reading, and he was gearing up for his ungrateful bitch routine after I declined, so I told him to fuck off before he could throw another temper tantrum. I think I got the message across. OP, apparently that's what it takes with him. Lucy, be glad you turned down the reading. That fool doesn't even know how to read tarot cards. He just spreads them out and makes shit up. And he always finds a way to imply that your romantic future is closer than you might imagine. OP mimicking Mo, it might even be right in front of you. Lucy, oh no, you let him read your cards? OP embarrassed, yeah, I was just trying to be a good sport. Darcy gagged, he's so gross. Lucy, speaking of gross, have you guys seen Mary hanging all over whiskers? She pointed to a nearby cocktail table where Mary was still grinding on the guy with the manky beard. Really, she's just working away. Grateful for the attention, if anything. OP says whiskers. Is he a cat? Lucy, I don't know his real name. That's just what everyone calls him. OP, he looks like a homeless Hagrid in an Armani knockoff. Lucy, I feel bad for him. Mary's gonna get obsessed and make his life hell. He seems cool. He's been to the show a few times, and he's always been nice when I talk to him. I glanced over at the odd pairing once again. Mary was alternating between wild, dramatic gesticulation and body displays of affection. I couldn't hear exactly what she was going on about, but then Whiskers raised his arms to get Mary settled back into her seat. I noticed he had broken chains tattooed on both wrists. Were his tattoos a spin on Jack's tattoos in BioShock? Hell yeah, ruined BioShock for me, great. Maybe this hobo chic guy was worth talking to. I mean, Lucy said he was nice, and I trusted her judgment, so I allowed the gamer geek in me to take over. I rose from the bar stool, heading into the lioness's den to talk to the strange-looking stranger about some video games. And Mary stuck out her leg when I got near their table and said,
No, this is my date for the evening.
I threw up my hands and assured her, I'm not trying to steal your date, I just wanted to talk to him about his tattoos. By the way, you guys were hilarious tonight, Mary.
We're always hilarious. You guys were cute, I suppose.
Then she sighed.
Talk tats. Then let me get back to my datey date.
Well, the datey date seems to be successful if the dry humping in the middle of a crowded bar is anything to judge by. Whiskers looked embarrassed as Mary tightly wound her arm around his waist and rested her head on his shoulder. He put out his cigarette, held out his hand, and politely introduced himself. I returned the courtesy. Mary was audibly huffing. I needed to make this quick. OP, hey, I was just noticing your tattoos. Are you a BioShock fan by any chance? Whiskers' piercing blue eyes lit up as he placed a fresh cig in a long cigarette holder. His beard was so bushy, I suppose he needed the cigarette holder to keep from setting his facial hair on fire. Whiskers, yeah, big fan. Do you understand the meaning? OP, a man chooses, a slave obeys. Jack's chains are intact in the game, but yours are broken, so I'm guessing that you're no slave. Whiskers, yeah, pretty good guess. It's basically a massive F you to that bitch Ayn Rand. But it's definitely inspired by BioShock 2. Good eye. Great taste in games. Yeah, like I came in here seeking your fucking approval. OP says, okay, well, thanks. Just wanted to compliment your ink. And then says to Mary, sorry to interrupt. Mary heaved her heavy bosom onto the table and slid her Jupiters closer to an oblivious Whiskers. Whiskers, wait, where are you from, OP? OP, originally Bristol, but I moved to California when I was 7. Whiskers, Bristol, like the poo chart? I laughed a little too hard because, you know, poop is funny. Yes, actually, I was born in the shit capital of the UK. Whiskers chuckled. That explains the cute accent. I barely have any British left in my accent, but it slips through from time to time. My classmates used to mock me for it, eventually taking to calling me Hermione. At first, I thought it was a compliment, and then I realized that it wasn't, so I appreciated Whiskers' words. Whatever, putting stock into what your classmates say. It's a bunch of children. They don't know any better. Your worldview is this fucking big. Get away from me. Mary starts whining.
Whiskey! I was in the middle of a story!
That was my cue. I certainly wasn't trying to crash Mary's date, and I was honestly a bit frightened by her. I gave Whiskers a polite nod and told Mary, carry on, I was just being a gamer geek. You two have fun. As I took my leave, I noticed an aura of heavy, obnoxiously floral perfume underneath the cigarette smoke, booze, and slight hint of pee-pee that permeated the air in filthy McNasties. I assumed that Mary had overspritzed herself in preparation for her datey date, but I would later find out that the perfume wearer was actually Whiskers. At any rate, I avoided him for the rest of the evening, not wanting to raise Mary's ire more than I already had, but as he was leaving the bar with Mary attached to him, slobbering all over the side of his beard, he locked eyes with me for a little too long, seemed to smile, though it was hard to tell under that massive beard, and he presumably went home and, got some. Probably got a little more than some, actually. Like I said, there's a lot of butter on that biscuit. Well, I guess we're just getting started. Mary really does seem like an obnoxious legbeard, center of everything. It's sort of giving me some Amanda Legbeard saga vibes, because remember she took her shirt off in like the middle of a frat party or something like that? A little different circumstances, same sort of vibes. So I'll look forward to getting into it a little bit more, but that'll be a little bit later on down the road. I hope you guys enjoyed. Like, comment, sub, sign up on Patreon or YouTube memberships if you haven't quite yet. It's consistent money every month, and it's super, super important to the health and wealth of this channel. If you can't afford it, I mean, don't sweat it too hard, friends. I just appreciate you hanging out, watching the videos, especially if you watch this far. Always remember that you are loved, you're worthy, you definitely, definitely deserve it, and I shall see you in the next one. So until then, bye-bye. Go ahead and cut them open. It's gonna be fine. It's gonna be fine.
Promise. Where's he?